First of all, thank you to anyone, all of you, who helped support this Sangha, this study practice, which happens every day, several times, study of the Buddha's Dharma, and this teacher. Thank you. And asking for your continued support, whatever way that you are able, so that we can continue. This evening's Dharma talk is called Begin Again. Is that right? What is it?
Begin again and again.
Begin again and again and again. Begin again. Yes, it is. She's I kind of baited her a little bit. It is begin again, because once we begin again, we kind of run out of steam. So there's not, on the spiritual path, there's not going to be some kind of a carrot out in front of you particularly. Unless the first one that inspired you to even step on this path in the first place, which is going to be, of course, the second place, the third place, the fourth place. Look closely at what you do. The difference between the mundane path and the spiritual path. The mundane path is always kind of seducing you into getting this and stopping this and starting that. Relative truth operates just fine. We need it. Otherwise, we wouldn't go to the grocery store, or we wouldn't grow food, or lots of ors. Get a job, wouldn't support our family, our community. Pay taxes, vote, participate in the community. We don't need to abandon it and go to a mountaintop and isolate somewhere in that way and separate in some way and hide out from this. But you may need to isolate yourself from everything else, including your family, including your partner, so you can sit down and look and see what this is. Begin again to do this. Begin again, and then begin again. Begin again, again and again and again. And why do I say it that way? Because it is so difficult to just rely on some kind of results that are, oh, meditation is very good, so I feel like I should do this more. That being said, some people actually have that experience for a year or two. This is great. Shikantaza, why didn't I do this sooner? And then we find out later on, maybe years later, that it doesn't particularly refill itself. You have to do it. You have to set your intention. You may need the vow, you may not. That's up to you. I'm not here to promote any vows. That's up to you to do that. You may need it. You may need it. So, of course, I'm somewhat referring to the teaching of Suzuki Roshi in his title of his first book. I think the only book that was published perhaps while he was alive. I'm not sure about that. Very close. I think it was in 1970. Zen Mind, or Heart Mind, Beginner's Mind. Same mind. You sit down, take up this position, sit symmetrical, all the senses are open, the attitude is received. Beginner's mind. Always starting over. Begin again. What was it?
Begin again.
No, it was just begin again. Begin again. It's not begin and again. That's incorrect. But you could use that. You can reflect on that when your life is, maybe you've been meditating for 3 years, 8 years, 20 years. Begin again. Everything, starting over. Everything that starts over is not a copy of what happened 3 days ago or yesterday. Nothing happens twice. Sure looks like it, though. So begin again. Begin again. This is kind of rhymes with what I talk about all the time is the intention. Just return to the intention. Trungpa Rinpoche used to say, return to your original inspiration to even do such a thing. You can actually do that in a relationship if the relationship isn't so shattered or coming apart or dismembered. Maybe not. But what is the original intention? Could be a feeling, an emotion, resonance. Same thing with the Dharma. Intend. And the way I say it, could be said other ways, is said other ways, is intend to see the truth. Intend to follow. You stepped on this path by, in some way you've gotten onto this path, either through a teacher, a community, or a person, or a particular teaching. Hard to say. Everyone has a different story around that. Seems necessary to return to that original intention to do this in the first place. It can get quite challenging and difficult. It's helpful to work with Sangha. Very difficult. I have some people who aren't actually students. They kind of stay in touch with me. They just read books on their own and tell me about them. Or maybe ask me about them. I may or may not have read the book. I really don't have time to read more books. Pardon me. I have time for Netflix, though. And I also have time to come in here just about every day, at least in person or on Zoom. So it's the intention. Set your intention. Begin again. When it starts to wear out, then just begin again. You don't necessarily have to have some kind of inspiration that's outside. Just begin again. Just intend. If it has results ahead of it, there could be something there. But if there's too much of that, then we start to look for results. We start to get oriented towards a gaining idea. Well, if I do this, if I sit, if I go into retreat, or if I sit every day for, I sit 4 or 5 block sits in a row, maybe that will do this or that. Probably not. So relative truth is all about feeling better, feeling worse, improving, not improving, all of the areas that we go in to, that this and that happens. And the spiritual path is so incredibly radical. I mean that not in the way it's sometimes used as somebody as a radical or a wildcat. It's radical in it goes towards whatever you might call the root of the consciousness. And root is a relative word. So what is the root of this consciousness? The confused mind, the root of that is belief in a self. That's the root. You have to look at that. See that it is unreal. It is dependently risen. That there is no one there. There's no solid identity there. Any identity that may continue to show up, you just see that it's unreal. Because if you believe in that identity, or if you disbelieve in that identity, or if you ignore that identity, then it will continue to haunt you in some way or another. It will take on a relative reality that you can fight with, or you can agree with, or that you can push away or distract yourself from, simply put, but not so simply understood, because it needs to be understood with the consciousness, with your intention to see what this is. So it may not show up as some kind of conclusion or result. Begin again.
Shadow bowing. Is begin again something we can practice on the cushion bowing?
I think you could. Begin again, again. Come back, come back. You're sitting there and you wander off. You could say that. But the area that I would somewhat caution you about, don't particularly try to remain there. Like sometimes some meditations are returning to the breath, maintaining some kind of breath awareness. This is avoidance. I'm not saying that if you have in the Tibetan lineages, if you have a teacher that you're working with, that's different. They're teaching you to do Shine and Laktong or Shamatha Vipassana. That's different, working with a teacher. But to do that without a teacher, you will just become a better and better meditator, which is a highly stylized form of avoidance or ignorance. You don't have to believe what I'm saying here, but I'm just talking about how it looks, having done that for several decades. Establishes another identity.
Sure. In the way that you teach Shikantaza, what would it look like to begin again but not maintain? Just
return and let it fall apart. When I say let it fall apart, it's probably going to fall apart. You just watch it fall apart. Come back to the ball. Come back. You could come back to your breath, as long as there's no maintenance there. Come back to there, or some kind of thinking that you have to return to your breath. It tends to be the Lone Ranger and then his sidekick who wants to make sure you stay there. Remember his name? Anybody? Terrible program. Terrible. Other question?
Sure. Bowing. Is there an intention that we come back to while we're sitting that gets left periodically?
The intention is to come back, and then it's just the wall, tip of your nose, breath going out, kink in your knee, whatever's there, footsteps down the hallway. More?
Sure. Bowing. So is it the body that we use to return?
A sense of touch, sense of feeling, sense of gravity. Just remember gravity. And you don't have to maintain it, though. It's just flash on that. It's just I've heard it taught a long time ago. It's just touch and go. Just touch and go. There's touch on it. And that was a very early teaching of the Vidyadhara before he started teaching following the breath, labeling thinking, following the breath, labeling thinking when it came up, and then return to the breath. That was a more sophisticated structure. Any other questions while we're on questions, or I can continue to say things that I don't know what I'm going to say? Any questions on Zoom?
Kozan bowing.
Go ahead, Kozan.
Sometimes when we think of beginning, we think of beginning of something.
Yes.
So what's the difference between beginning and birth?
Beginning and birth?
Yeah.
Birth?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the same thing. I mean, it's similar. When I say begin again, I'm saying just come back to the cushion and watch what moves. And if you're deeper into the teachings of the Buddha, you may be doing prostrations, you may be returning, receiving, or repeating the triple refuge. And there's several ways that can be done. So you're actually giving birth to that over and over and over again until you see what it actually is. And what is it? It's unborn. It's not produced. You produce until you eventually see that it's unproduced. But everything you're looking at is unproduced. This is an illusion, and it's an incredibly powerful one that will be the emotion, or the motion, I should say, or maybe both, is seconded by everything. Everything is saying, yes, you're here. This is your fancy stick. This is your table. This is your computer. These are your peeps. You know, you're always seeing that, and that's in the backdrop of everything, constantly reinforcing that. that me, and I'm here in the room and I'm doing this and now I'm meditating. Now I'm all done meditating. I just sat for 4 hours and I feel kind of spaced out. I feel kind of, so there's always some kind of something going on that seconds the motion that yes, you're here and you're in this room. There's another way to do that, which is just receive. Then you actually see the wall. You feel your butt on the cushion or on the chair. You just receive it. You're not lecturing yourself. You're receiving instead of producing ideas about things, about yourself and where you're going, what time it is, and when you can get to the dog shelter. I feel like there's more there, Kozan. Go ahead if you have it.
Because I'm bowing. It seems like there is, but I don't know how to ask. You talk about no death, nothing dies, nothing is born. It seems like an interesting contradiction, thinking of beginning and birth, death.
Okay. Question other than statement?
Not yet. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else on Zoom? We have 30 people, so there's some people on another screen. I'll go over there. Who is it?
Shoka?
Do I know you?
I think so.
Where are you? Wave your hand. Oh, there you are. Oh, okay. I see you now. Yeah, Shoka, do you have a question?
Is beginner's minds the same as unborn or unceasing?
Yes. Yes, but it's a teaching, so it's a way of teaching. So one goes to the concept of beginner, which we all have some idea of somebody who is just starting out learning or acquiring some kind of an ability to do some particular thing. The beginner's mind is always Zen mind. Zen mind doesn't know anything, has not accomplished anything, is going nowhere. But that takes a while for that aspect of the consciousness to awaken because it is so covered up by concepts and ideas and confusion and fear. So we cover it up with ideas, beliefs, accomplishments, judgments, paranoia about, can't do that. What if I do? What will they think? If I do that, what will they think? Like my mother used to say, Bobby, don't you want people to like you? I remember really, it's like being put on an existential chopping block. It's like, I don't know, do I? I was like only 7. Worried about what other people think. Maybe you're worried about them in the way that you are always telling people what you're thinking. You're explaining them to yourselves instead of just doing something. Let them hang out with a reaction to it. Instead, you feel like you need to tell them why you're doing that. Is this incorrect? No, not at all. Just be aware of that. More, Shoka?
Shoka bowing. In beginner's mind, how does the mind of the expert arise?
Well, it might arise as an image or possibly even a goal for some people. But as Suzuki Roshi said, and I have to paraphrase him, in the beginner's mind, or rather in the expert's mind, the possibilities are few, whereas in the beginner's mind, they're limitless. There's no accomplishment mentality of I'm finally know how to do this or know how to do that, and I'm very accomplished at this or that. I'm an accomplished meditator. So it starts to close down. This is not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons. This comes from my own experience, not something I was taught, that I don't teach shamatha vipassana. I don't teach first train to be mindful and then later on have panoramic awareness. I'm not saying that way is incorrect. If you have a teacher, then that probably would be fine to go with what your teacher says. Not what I say. Don't disregard what I've said if you have a teacher. But if I'm your teacher, then listen to what I'm saying. Just observe. Rather than have some kind of thing that you observe away.
Shoka bowing.
Yes, sir.
It seems like with the instruction of begin again, or beginner's mind, it brings my attention to the way that I might be building up some kind of an identity or building up some kind of a success story.
How's that going? Are you doing that?
What?
You heard me.
I didn't hear you.
Oh. Are you doing that? I said, how's that going for you? Do you seem to be building up some kind of an identity in some way? Or?
It seems like it brings the awareness to how that's already arising. So when that arises in awareness, is that beginner's mind?
If you're just being aware of your grasping for an identity, then that's beginner's mind. Because it's just awareness. You're just watching the concluding mind come out of consciousness and reach for something. You don't have to stop doing that. To stop doing that, we start to slowly become an expert. Very, very good at being mindful. I'm probably one of the most mindful people I've ever met. Not only that, I don't know what stage of bodhisattvahood I'm on, but it's way up there. Because I put other people before myself constantly. I kind of get irritated with myself because I'm afraid that I'm going to start to get off on my own sainthood. You seem to look perplexed. Further, Shoka?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Good. Further questions? Anyone on Zoom, or should I go to the?
Augie bowing.
Augie, go ahead.
I'm feeling a bit perplexed because what has struck me about shikantaza that's different from any other meditation I've done is that in shikantaza there hasn't been a return step.
Mm-hmm.
Return to the breath, or return to this or that, and it's caused me a lot of difficulty, a lot of adjustment.
Are you ready for a response, or do you have a question?
I'm ready for a response.
I've got one for you. Right now, that's awareness. You're saying it's causing you. It's not causing you. It's not giving you some kind of a maintenance device like returning to the breath or returning to the mantra, returning to the visualization, returning to, there's lots of meditations that do that. And I also say it may be necessary to do some of those meditations, but the foundation for this, as far as I understand it, and as far as I've practiced it, is just basic awareness practice. You could call it shikantaza. You could call it the fancier words, Dzogchen, Mahamudra, all of those, whatever you want. It's just this. And if you're practicing that in shikantaza, what you will see for quite a while is the confusion going around. And I would say this is not to pick on anybody because everyone has such different wiring, but you're a retired chemical engineer, isn't that true?
Yes.
So the way you've been using your mind is very, very precise and accurate for all of your life. And so you start to practice shikantaza and all of this alternating precision and cloudiness back and forth, figuring it out, finding, okay, got that. Now I need this, put this over there and that there. That seemed to work, but one part is missing. I'm just saying that's more of a logic and an analytical approach. Not incorrect. We need that. You wouldn't have anti-gravity machines if it weren't for that. Do we have those yet? Oh, that's coming. I'm sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. Well, a cat is an anti-gravity machine, if you haven't noticed. So what you're seeing, Augie, is that's the idea of shikantaza. you're going to actually see the scrap heap in your mind. You're going to see all the falderall that's going around about aspects of the consciousness you've never seen before. And there's a good chance you will start to feel worse, especially if you've just spent 30, 40, 50 years either not meditating or meditating in a way that is about control and getting some kind of feeling of getting somewhere up and down the hills and valleys. But if you just stop doing that, you sit down, and the only thing you do is with the body, which is not separate from the mind, just looks that way. That part of the mind you can hold very still is the body. You can't hold the actual that part of consciousness that shows up as form. Can't really hold that still. Although it's taught, mantras, visualization of a yantra or visualization of a deity, as in deity yoga. So that is a way to do it. You need to do it with a teacher. So I say, what you're doing, I think that when you say that, I'm saying, yes, keep going. Yes, begin again. Just go back and just continue to look without looking for any results, particularly. And if you, after a while, it isn't like you could stop looking for clarity. You could stop looking for something that's balanced, but you can notice that you're looking for something else. You're looking at the confusion like this, and you want something else. So you're getting right smack between the eyes, the first noble truth, life is suffering, and the second noble truth, probably hit you from the back, is like, what do they call those? Billy clubs. Yeah. Bang. You want something else. What do you want?
Go.
Do you? Would you like me to excuse you?
No.
Okay. So you're going to sit here and just want something but not get it?
Yeah.
Is that discipline?
I don't know.
Or stubbornness? Aren't you a Taurus? No. Problem solved. Sit there. You're only going to be here about another 15 minutes. You can take a nap if you want.
Thank you.
Several people napping here. Is there a further onslaught? Augie, anything else?
No, thank you. Bowing.
Thank you. That's a very helpful question, because there's kind of often there's just an assumption that if you're meditating, things should start to clear up. No, this is spiritual materialism, using spiritual techniques to try to feel better, get better, improve. It's not that you won't. You could see some improvement. Usually the kind of improvement that shows up right away is other people realize you've stopped interrupting them. You actually wait for the period instead of cut into the middle of their sentence. You listen. Senchu.
Bowing. How do we begin again in the midst of something very familiar?
Can you give me an example?
In a block sit, where you're just sitting and things are coming and going, and it can feel very
Things are coming and going in your mind stream or around you?
both.
Okay, what's the question?
How do you begin again in the middle of that?
You can't help but do it. It's just that you won't be aware of it if there's somebody getting a credential, if there's an ego, a self-centered aspect of the consciousness that is evaluating every damn thing. It's good, it's bad, it should be, it shouldn't be. I didn't do it, they didn't do it. Here I go again, I know I'm doing it. Just watch what moves. No adding, just watch what moves. No subtracting or judging. Just don't add. But if you do, then just watch that. That way you're always right at the outer edge of seeing what this is. You're very, very close to it. Shikantaza, powerful, powerful practice. It will take you into, at the risk of sounding romantic or silly, it'll take you into the heart of reality. And I'm not a philosopher. And you won't know that you're in that. If you know, then we're right back to some kind of gaining idea, someone who's getting somewhere, who's about to get a PhD in, what's that? Vipassana. More? Begin again, just repetition. Just whatever shows up, just look at it. If it goes away, just watch it leave. No addition. If anything shows up that is about that situation that's coming or going, then just observe that. What you're kind of doing is you're turning it into its primary situation, which is it just shows up, instead of it's something about what shows up. Sometimes called an opinion. You won't have opinions. You really won't have thoughts in the conventional sense. You'll have thoughts, but they won't be about some kind of identity that's over here, or there's some kind of identity that's over there. Or, did you ever see the movie Forrest Gump? What'd you think of it?
I loved it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Kind of a dumb Buddha, Forrest was. Any other questions? Yes. Ivan, go ahead.
What is the fundamental spark or motivation that keeps us or allows us to begin again? What is that if we have no little candy along the way reward, what is it that would keep us coming back?
So it may function like a reward, it's possible. It could be some of that keeps us going. It could be just the repetition. It could be just the rest that we get by not doing anything, unplugging the word process or food processor's thinking process. Let the damn thing slow down for a while, sit still and watch what moves. And there'll be less and less movement over time. So, but the fundamental understanding, anyone who's doing this probably has some form of inspiration about the nature of this, some kind of it's sometimes called bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. We stumble into that at some point, and we begin to realize there's something way beyond what we've been taught, what the whole society is talking about, way beyond good and evil, way beyond success and failure, right and wrong. Something that transcends that. We read it in the teachings. They say it over and over to us, picking and choosing, or the recent translation by Red Pine just says choosing is a disease of the mind. Just choose it. Don't choose anything. You don't have to choose anything. And that's of the Sin Sin Ming. So it has its own energy, because it's not in the service of an ego that's trying to get somewhere. You're functioning out of your Buddha nature before you even realize it. And then when you realize it, then even that stops, because there's no one left to realize anything. That doesn't mean you don't put on your pajamas every night. It doesn't mean that you don't have breakfast. Like I think Trungpa Rinpoche once said, it's not like you're just stupid all of a sudden. I think he said, and I have to paraphrase it, really, otherwise you need some kind of enlightenment ward in the hospital. All these people are enlightened, so they have to be taken care of because they're all zombies. They don't want anything anymore. They don't have thoughts. No, the thoughts could be more intense. Your activity could be more intense. You could be more outlandish, because you're fearless and you are not separate from the dependent origination, pratitya samutpada, that brought you into this realm of human realm of quite a bit of insanity going on. I don't know if we're going to make it through this as a ball of dirt with humans on it. I don't know if that's going to work or not. There's not enough attention being paid to just the very nature of what we're living on is coming apart. The climate is going to pieces. We're watching it. And it's interesting to watch somebody report on a house burning down while they're in it. Yes, the house is burning down. I think we still have 28 years. If we can probably, but now the time is running out. They're saying, I think it's 20, we only have 27 years left, or 20. Kind of a odd, macabre kind of humor happening there. But that's looks like things are going to go away. All of you scientists out there, those of you who work in that area, probably are probably have a little bit more understanding of what's happening than the rest of us. I mean, have the actual mechanics of the world coming apart by climate change. But that which you are, not the body, that which you actually are, can be destroyed. Don't believe that. It's not a belief system or a belief teaching. Body's going down. Every that arises is going down, but that which does not arise cannot vanish. Simply put, how else are you going to talk about the ultimate? You can't. There aren't words for it. Even Longchenpa used to get headaches. You read about that? You didn't read about that? Headaches trying to explain what he was looking at. It's very painful for him. You're going to call me on that? Go ahead.
So, why doesn't a belief that, why doesn't a belief about our true nature work when we die?
It could, it might, but it would end up as a belief that you would feel like you're in eternity. You could be in a God realm indefinitely. Because there's no time or space there. It's a complete illusion. So if you believe in something, that can come about. Just like, those who believe in Jesus, when they die, they're probably going to see that whole consciousness continues to happen. How do I know? I don't know. I don't need to know that like a fact that I could write a book about or prove. And if somebody comes and says, I heard what you said, I heard your talk, I heard what you said, I want you to prove that. You know what I'd say to that, don't you? No. You have more questions? Go ahead.
Sure.
Don't waste the rest of our day here. Oh, we have plenty of time. 6 minutes to 9. You got someplace you gotta go? So,
Can you hear me?
no, I can't hear you. Yeah, go ahead, Yu Hung.
Okay. How to look one's race and culture as the Dharma gate on this path?
Anyone catch race and culture?
Yes. How to look at one's race and culture as the Dharma gate.
Okay. Well, I think wherever it's at, I think that can be a Dharma gate if you see that it's restricting you and you see that you don't have to fight with it. You don't have to necessarily go and march against something just because it has some kind of obstruction to it. Just like the culture that we're in, the belief is all over the place in this in the United States and in this particular time. There's all kinds of things that are run by belief, disbelief, and so on. So it's just a matter of observing it. So, but you may not be able to look at it directly until you spend some time on the cushion, training yourself by watching less substantial obstructions or Dharma gates like the mind stream come up, belief, disbelief, right, wrong, should, shouldn't, all of those. Watch those in your mind, because those are fundamentally reinforced by your family situation, your culture situation. If I'm understanding what you're asking about, I'm saying just continue. You're probably, that you can ask the question, you're probably already looking at that area. You're already doing that. So I think it's a matter of begin again, get to the cushion, come back to the teaching, interact with other people who are studying this same material, especially under the same teacher. Otherwise, there's lots of different directions you could go that are maybe fruitful in some relative sense, but continue. Go ahead.
Sure, bowing.
Yes, sir.
I think you said that belief could function like an indefinite God realm. And I'm wondering, how does realization, how is that better than an indefinite God realm?
I didn't say it was better. You said it was better. But what do you want to know? Let's do it that way. What is it you want to know? Spit it out. What do you want to know?
How does realization
Yes.
clarify death?
Nothing happens. There is no death. But if you think you've died, your body, and you're looking down at your corpse, which I hear happens with those people who have near-death experiences in the hospital, look down at people operating on them, and then they die for 15, 20 minutes, and then they come back. Doesn't prove a lot, but it's interesting that happens. More? That's a good area to go, but you need to ask before I can respond.
Sure, bowing. What's the detriment of dying with that belief in the body?
There's no detriment other than it just cycles around, just you'll be back again into this realm, human realm. Because you put it literally, you haven't learned what this is. You haven't understood what this is, so you'll be back until you understand what this is. You could even say it's just physics. It's just a kind of physics it's not studied in science so much as it is studied on the spiritual path. I've just spent quite a bit of time looking at quantum physics. No, okay. We better start. You've been studying that. Just 10 days in solitary retreat with just books on physics. They give you the wrong books again. No, seriously, but question about that? I'm talking about out of what I'm seeing. Now, I don't know that. Different kind of seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. It's not the conventional process that leads to a result. Go ahead.
Sure. Is there a difference between someone who comes back because of an unexamined belief and someone who comes back from the vow?
Yes, one comes back because of passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear, and struggling with the desire to get this and keep away that. That could bring someone back into incarnation, but it won't be an individual. It'll just be consciousness that may show up as an individual when the body-mind complex comes together in the womb. Then that's how I understand it. But it won't be it won't be just the same person coming back over and over. There's no singular for people. But if someone comes back through the vow, then my understanding of it is that's how they come back, is to save all beings, be with all things, to vow, and not leave samsara until there's no other beings there. Scary, huh? Who would want to do that? Avalokiteshvara. So we can get into all kinds of projections and ideas and conclusions about it. It'd be hard to know what that is, like some kind of thing you could write about that everyone would agree, yes, that's the way it is. That whole area starts to just come apart. As far as any kind of comparison, it's always like the title of the book by Suzuki, not always so. It's not, anything that shows up isn't always going to be like that, no matter what it is. More.
Thank you.
Shokubang.
Go ahead. Goodbye.
When talking about death or dying,
Yes.
is the fear of pain during death a fear of death?
No, I think fear of pain is you've got a bunch of nerve endings, and so when you know that there's going to be some physical pain. I'm not sure where you're at with it, but death is the idea. There is a termination that this consciousness that you think is somebody is going to disappear, So if you realize there isn't anyone, then what's the fear? Nothing can disappear if there's nothing there. Just consciousness only. But if your fear, if your fear is of a, I will invent something since you haven't. I would just say fear. You suddenly understand that you have cancer, and maybe some kind of cancer that is very painful to die of. Stomach cancer, I think, is a painful one. You have that, and you think, this is not going to be easy. It's going to be painful. But that's not fear of death. That's fear of pain and nerve endings. You know, somebody starts chasing you down the road with a blowtorch. You know, it's not fear of death particularly. It's a fear of ouch. Don't want that. It's painful. I don't want that kind of direct pain of pain. But if you see there is no one, then, you know, the blowtorch may still apply. You're still in a human form, or you're connected with a human form in a relative manifestation of being on the sidewalk in Burlington, Vermont, with somebody chasing you with a blowtorch. So yeah, you're probably not going to stand around and say, I'm nobody, just go ahead and burn me up. But if you realize there is no being, and then you find yourself in pain, that's the pain. But if you find yourself dying, there won't necessarily be any fear of death, because there was never anyone here in the first place, or in the second place or third place. Begin again, begin again. It's unreal. It's vividly unreal in emptiness, yet there's still form, according to my guru.
SokukoJi, thank you. The question comes out of having or being a young person and experiencing as much pain as I have over the last 5 or 6 years, and just a fear of how difficult that might get as I get older.
Well, I can follow that. I have a lot of physical pain. I didn't go through what you've gone through. I don't have any fear of any future pain. I have enough right here. So I'm not sure. And I follow what you're saying, because we've known each other quite a long time. And I knew you've had a lot of physical difficulty with your body and so on, but just different people. Some people have very little physical pain most of their life. And then when they get old, then they start hurting. Some people are very young, like you are, and have disease. We have people in our Sangha that are in extreme pain, and we can't help them. They can't get the help they need to get out of that. So, other than drugs and covering it up in different ways, and if it's painful, you might have to cover it up with something. Might have to use some kind of a medication or painkiller, whatever. I don't know. I would leave that up to the individual. Haven't you been able to find anything to deal with your pain? Or are you in pain every day?
Sure, I'm in pain every day, and I find things to mediate it, but I can't find any discernible source.
Interesting. That's pain of pain. So some people don't have much of that at all. Some people don't have the pain of alternation. Some people don't have much of that either. So I don't know, but there could be some aspect of your particular body that is that we don't understand, or the chiropractors or the doctors or the DOs or whoever you're going to just can't find a source for that. But they're still charging you a fee, which is quite often what happens in those situations where nothing has fundamentally helped. So I'm not sure if I'm even getting close to what it is you want to know, but it's not particularly fear of death. It's fear of pain. Fear that the pain might get more intense every few years, just ramp up a little bit. That's a possibility.
SokukoJi, thank you. How is that fear of pain a mirror for seeing into no self?
Well, how does that look to you? You're looking at it and you're using the term mirror, and which is part of the Buddha Dharma, that everything is mirror-like. There's even a mirror-like wisdom. What you're looking at is looking at you. So there's lots of ways of using that. I don't know of a particular device or protocol or method that you could use in that area. Everything is a mirror. Everything is a Buddha's teaching. That very suffering is teaching. The very pain that I have in my synovial system, my L4 vertebrae, is a teaching. And as much as I can, when that happens, I put it on receive as much as I can. But sometimes I just want to stop that. And that's also awareness practice. You don't get to particularly be a hero in the conventional sense. Everyone here, we could talk to everyone here and everyone here in the room that may be having some difficulty or some suffering going on in different forms, whether mental, physical, or maybe in some other dynamic. So insofar as we can, just receive it without adding to it. As you've heard me say many times, I'm open to any questions you have, any of you, not just Shoka, around this, and I'll do my best to respond out of how this looks to me. So, but the most important thing to do is whatever happens, receive it. No war, no more war forever. Don't fight with anything. Anything that shows up in your mind stream, your life stream, any frustration, any incongruity in your mind stream has a right to be there. It's dependently arisen. And I'm not saying that it isn't, might be something that you can look and find a relative cause where you can unplug it, or you can even medicate it. Sure, we're not going to just be torture ourselves and say, I just have to do this with my consciousness alone. I can't do it by medication. I think it's a matter of each person needs to look at that themselves.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry, I can't help you more in that area. It's a completely valid question. I don't know if I can say more than the way you asked the question tells me you're doing what you need to do there, as long as you are not adding on to that the assumption that this shouldn't be there, that somehow something is wrong. I'm not saying that something isn't incorrect or out of balance in terms of your body. Maybe looking around, maybe eventually you'll find someone. The problem with that is you talk to people and there are people that are so much wanting to be in control or make money. There are people who guarantee things to you. Watch TikTok for a while. Just one little 30-second sales pitch after another. Buy this, this works, buy this, do that. Same thing with other internet situations of advertising. Sure, yes.
So can our body pain be hijacked by the ego to keep us from looking more deeply into our mind?
Probably. So it causes you to use illegal drugs, is that what you mean?
That, or just get up off the cushion and not practice?
Yes, I would say so. And not only hijack, but in my experience when I first started sitting, is I just couldn't stand to sit. I couldn't cross my legs for more than 15 minutes, but everything was aching, and everyone else was sitting around there very serene, like little angels all sitting around you. And I'm feeling like speaking of blowtorches on my knees. I don't know how that would fit in with what you're talking about, but I really don't know. I can't explore the causes and conditions behind that extreme physical discomfort I went through. But it was still going. More?
Sure. How can we look at our pain without overdosing on it?
Just receive it like it is with no addition. You might have to watch the addition. You feel the pain and then you blame. You feel the pain and you explain. You receive the pain and then you abandon what you're receiving for what it means, who did it, why it's happening, how I can get out of it, rather than just receive it. More. Suzuki.
Suzuki. Is there a way for us to begin again off the cushion if we're seeing ourselves putting up walls?
I think that we learn to do that on the cushion. We sit down and we see how whatever's going through our mind, we can just come back to the wall, come back to how this feels. The six sense fields, including the mind, are all in the present moment in different ways. Sense of smell is always here. Sense of touch is always here. You feel gravity pulling you down. Sense of touch is right here in the so-called present moment. Whereas the mind could be going anywhere, any direction, into any idea of past, present, future, memories, emotions, and so on. So the training part happens on the cushion, is my understanding of it. This is how it looks. So that when you get off the cushion and you go into your everyday situation, there's more of a tendency to just receive what's happening because you've just been practicing receiving. And part of that is noticing how you can't seem to receive very well. Receiving for the last 3 or 4 hours, get up and go out, and then you might find that you're able to listen to not only what's happening in front of you without doing anything with it, but also receive your subconscious gossip that's coming and going. And sometimes a lot of sitting meditation will release aspects of the mind that are more horror stories and more difficulty and more paranoia going on. But you're slowly learning or retraining yourself to just receive what shows up without accepting it, explaining it, rejecting it, shutting it down, without doing anything with it, no matter how it feels. It's like you heard me say, I don't care how you feel. I don't care. If I cared how I feel, I certainly wouldn't be here. I'd be somewhere doing something more fun. Right? See what I'm saying a little bit? I'm being silly, but I'm just saying, you really have to be genuine, have to be the mind that we show up with and as. And I don't know, there might be other ways to do this, but I've not seen it. Maybe, I don't know. But it looks like this will, there's no guarantee, because what you're dealing with or what you're dealing with or what you're dealing with, I may have not experienced that, but the things that I've experienced over being a meditator for close to 50 years, I dragged myself through a lot of crap to without any kind of accomplishment, but to see in such a way that I can encourage you to don't fight with your world. Don't miss your life by opting for something better. More this, more that. Some kind of sales pitch going on there. Please, we're at the end of our rope here, I guess, if you want to call it a rope. But please don't hesitate to ask questions about this. More?
I was just going to say thank you.
Okay. I can go further into this. If
Hold on,
you're,
Bob.
go ahead, please.
Can you begin again on purpose?
That's the only way you can do it. Only way you can do it is to begin again on purpose. I'm gonna begin again. I don't like that. Shikantaza sucks. All of my experiences there have been painful or difficult or fruitless, but I'm going to go back there and do it again. I'm going to begin again, again, and again, and again, and again. This is the vow that saves all beings. This is the vow that transcends karma. What is it? Put others before yourself. And how you start doing that is to see how self-centered you are and how full of yourself you are, not just you, me. You have to see that. You have to see how intensely self-centered and greedy you are about what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you should, all of that. Have to see some of that. You have to receive that in your mind stream. Shikantaza. Not easy. I'm ready for questions in that area if you have them, or any area. More? Goes on?
Kozan bowing no, thank you.
So Peter, do you have any questions? You're new here.
Not tonight, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm very interested in your teachings, and I'm just uh, just paying attention and listening.
Okay, very
Thank you very much.
certainly. Okay, I guess we can close. Thank you.